Hi again guys, and welcome to episode 20 of Spirit of Le Mans, the review series where I'm evaluating the best and worst points about the Le Mans prototypes that feature on Gran Turismo 6. So as you can see in this episode, we're featuring a hugely popular prototype. Ever since it was first introduced on Gran Turismo 4, people have absolutely loved this car. It's the 1989 Toyota Minolta 88C-V race car. It's a Group C race car. And although it never actually won the Le Mans, it's still, like I said, a massively popular and extremely fast car. In real life, it was kind of notable for having a short wheelbase and very twitchy handling, which some of the drivers found challenging. But does that carry over to the game, or is it a good car? Well, let's go to the track and find out. So, being as it is a hugely powerful prototype, surely the Minolta would be, like the R89C that I reviewed yesterday, kind of disadvantaged on a city track. Well, no, not really, to be honest. Now, for low speed handling, I am going to only give it a 4 out of 5. Because you can feel that massive power and the massive torque, and sure, it can wheel spin, of course it can. It has a short wheelbase, it's light, and it has huge power. But, unlike the R89C, the Minolta has the ability to still perform extremely well and work through that wheel spin, as well as the fact that the wheel spin is no way near on the same level as the R89C. Overall on city tracks though, I'm going to give it a strong 5 out of 5, because although the handling at low speeds isn't perfect, it still set the new fastest lap of all of my prototypes on this track. It beat the Bentley and it beat the Mazda LM55. Some of you probably won't be surprised by that because the Minolta is extremely quick. Now for acceleration, again, I'm going to give it a strong 5 out of 5. So that's it for our city track. Now let's go over to Ascari and see how it performs on a more moderate speed technical type circuit. Now, I would say one of the best points, if not the best point, about the Minolta 88C-V is how usable its power really is. Many of the ultra high-powered prototypes are very sketchy to drive. They require many laps of learning how to use them. The Minolta, although not the kind of car that you can just jump in and set a world record lap, is easier than most of the others to get a hold of and to get a fast lap out of. It has kind of a softness, kind of a suppleness to its handling, which makes it much more friendly for less experienced drivers. Now on moderate speed technical tracks, obviously you can use more of that huge, like I said, almost 1200 horsepower of its straight line performance. So overall, for mid-range handling, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5, because although like with all the prototypes, it does have a little bit of a tendency to wheel spin, the mid-range handling is very good. The brakes, again, are excellent. They do a brilliant job of scrubbing off all that speed. So again, it's a 5 out of 5 for brakes. And overall, on tracks such as this, it's a formidable car. Again, it beat every single prototype around this track, even the Pascalo GV5, which up until this review video was the quickest on this track. So, I mean, obviously it's going to get a 5 out of 5 for moderate speed tracks. So that's it for our moderate speed technical track on Ascari. Now let's finally see how it fares on what you'd expect to be its home turf, a high speed track. Now, right off the bat, it's obvious that the Minolta is going to perform well on a high-speed track. You don't really need me to tell you that. And it also, again, beat every single other prototype around Spa, which I personally wasn't really expecting. On the other two tracks, it surprised me, but I could understand it. But on this track, it did actually surprise me, because the cars that it was going up against are, for the most part, quite a lot newer and have more advanced technology, which makes them, although not necessarily as quick on paper, quicker in practice. Cars like the Peugeot 908. And I thought that this car's overwhelming speed might give it a bit of a disadvantage on some of these corners, but it doesn't. It's quicker again, like I said, on this track. So it's beat the record of all of my other prototypes so far in this series on all 3 tracks. I mean, nothing tells you how good a car is like a good lap time, and this is the best on all 3. So overall, 4 high-speed tracks, not just Spa, but obviously Lasarte, Monza, tracks like that, it's got to be a strong 5 out of 5. It's a brilliant car. And for top-end performance, unsurprisingly, it's a strong 5 out of 5. Now, overall for drivability, I'm actually also going to give it a 5 out of 5. And I believe, if I recall correctly, this is one of the only ultra-high-powered prototypes that I'm giving 5 out of 5 for drivability. Because most of them, as I mentioned before, are quite challenging to drive. But the Minolta, although it's not perfect, as none of them are, is, like I said, much, much easier to get a hang of than most of the other, say, 11 or 1200 horsepower prototypes. So that's it for our track testing. Now let's go back to the garage for a roundup. So overall, the Minolta is a really, really good prototype. Now, I think most of you guys probably already knew that. Like I said at the start of the video, it's one of the most popular, or seems to be one of the most popular prototypes of the Gran Turismo franchise. It was first introduced in GT4, and ever since then it's just been one of the best all-round prototypes in the game, and one of the quickest. Now, as far as its best point, well, I kind of alluded to it earlier on in the video, but I would say its overall best point is just how usable all that power really is. And like I said, it's one of the only ultra high powered prototypes which is genuinely usable. I mean, the Audi R10 has even more power, but it's not a great handling car. The Pascalo Hybrid, I haven't reviewed it yet, but I know that car has its flaws, and many of the other hugely powerful prototypes just are no way near as good to drive as the 88C-V. As far as its worst point, well, it's not really a bad point as such, but I'd say its worst point would probably just be the low speed handling, which is the only thing I didn't give it 5 out of 5 on. And even then, like I've said before, all of the prototypes can wheel spin out of corners, but even though that's its worst point, it's still a worse point in a far less bad way than most of the other prototypes, if you know what I mean. So although it does wheel spin, it doesn't wheel spin anywhere near as much as some of the others. So overall, it's a great car. If you haven't tried this car yet, I don't know where you've been, under a rock somewhere, but try it out. Seriously, try the Minolta. It's one of my most used prototypes of the Gran Turismo series, and it's a brilliant car. It's really good on the vast majority of tracks as well. I'm not really aware of any tracks that it's specifically not good at. There probably is some, or there probably is 1 or 2, but I'm not aware of them. So overall, yeah, by all means, give this car a try. As always, I'll put the lap times and ratings that it achieved in the video description if you want to compare that to the other prototypes. And as always, thanks for watching.